All right, people. Review of the week time. First one of 2025. First one of 2025. There, obviously, when you're going over Christmas, there's not a great deal happening, but surprisingly, we are hearing more about, fights that are in the pipeline. We also have a fight. It will be shown, have a look there on screen, live on the Zone this Wednesday. Opetaia, arguably, in my opinion, the best cruiserweight in the world, defends his world title against David Nyeka. David Nyeka, undefeated Olympian from Tokyo 2020. I think he's a tremendous talent. I think this fight's going to be epic, and it will be available on the Zone. Link will be in the comment section. Let's just preview. Let's start with this. Let's preview this card while we are on the subject. So, Opetaia, well, David Nyeka, for one, he was not the original opponent. The original opponent for Opetaia, I can't quite remember his name, but he was about 39 years old. He's quite old for a cruiserweight anyway. And I was thinking, okay, look, it's a run out for Opetaia. It's interesting. Again, I can't quite remember his name, but I think, if my memory serves me right, I don't think he was particularly, big or anything like that. Now, this guy, David Nyeka, is, I knew, 6'6" for a cruiserweight. That's pretty tall. For cruiserweight, that's particularly tall. Now, I've seen a couple of David Nyeka's fights. I actually seen his pro debut. It was on the undercard of Joseph Parker versus Junior Fa. He subsequently went to the Olympics that summer, and I believe he got bronze, if I'm not mistaken, at the Olympics. Now, I looked at a few of Nyeka's pro fights, and to me, he looks all right. He looks a talent. I've seen a couple of his amateur fights. There's a lot of potential there, but there is a but. I feel as though he needs a little bit more work, just a little bit more development. And I think that if this fight had happened, say, maybe 18 months in the future, I'd be saying, all right, interesting fight. Really, really, really good scrap. I think right now it's happening a little bit too soon. However, I don't recall the other guy being, if he was the same height as Opetaia or thereabouts, you're going from a guy who was roughly, I think, maybe 6'3" or thereabouts to a guy 6'6". It could be a bit of a, and we've seen fighters, in my opinion, better fighters struggle against guys and lose. Like Tim Tszyu meant to fight Keith Thurman, who's 5'7", fights Fundora, who's 6'5", 6'6". It's a big difference. Not just, it's noticeable, and he lost that fight, obviously. So we could have something like that. Ultimately, I think Opetaia is just a little bit too good. I can see this fight being competitive. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I reckon Opetaia would win, probably late stoppage or a comfy points decision. In terms of the undercard, Justice Hooney is on there against a guy called Sean Portiger. I think is how you say his name. He is 7-1 from South Africa. His age isn't listed, so I don't actually quite know how old he is. Worryingly, in 2022, well, actually, it's a bit weird, right? So he made two fights, one in 2016 and one in 2017, and then had a massive stretch of inactivity. And I'd love to, okay, so he was fighting. I was wondering, because sometimes when there's a big gap of inactivity, they kind of tend to, like, weight could be bizarre. They could be fighting at, like, super middle, and then all of a sudden they're a heavyweight. But he was stopped in a round in 2022, and he was 265 pounds, a big lump of a heavyweight, by a guy who was 6-2. Not great record. That guy is currently 10-3. The guy who won that, in fact, actually, I think he's inactive. Yeah, he may very well be. Oh, actually, he won the rematch. Oh, whoop-de-doo. He won the rematch. That's an achievement. And he won it in 11 rounds. Stopped in a round, and he won the rematch in 11 rounds. So I can't imagine this guy is going to be particularly, he only avenged that loss last year. So, I can't imagine he's going to give Justice Hooney too much trouble. WBO global title is on the line. Thierry Moana, who was Eddie Hearn's new heavyweight, he's in action. Keep an eye on him. He looks interesting. Look, with regards to Justice Hooney, if Alexander Usyk vacates, there could be a situation where Justice Hooney is in there with someone like a Moses Atauma. If that was the case, 100% every day of the week, Atauma to win that fight. I haven't been impressed with Justice Hooney. I remember when he turned over, there was a bit of fanfare about him. I've seen a lot of people do videos on him, and they were actually doing very, very good views as well at the time. But I've not been impressed with him at all. His fight against Kevin Lerena, he was hurt a couple of times in there by Lerena, and he won it barely. But I was like, no, at the top level, no. Kevin Lerena is not a bad fighter, but he's not at the elite. He's a small heavyweight. He's not got a lot of pop, so to be getting hurt by him is a bit of a worry. So, yeah, I think Justice Hooney should win this one, but moving forward, I'm not too sure. Now, I used to use, obviously, Michael Benson quite a bit to get some of my boxing news. Now we're using the Ring magazine. Now, they haven't been quite as consistent as Michael Benson in terms of posts and boxing news, but they're doing very good. It's kind of more of the same. So, no complaints there. Apparently, Devin Haney is working on a comeback date in March. No opponent announced as of yet. Devin Haney, it's a real weird one, isn't it? Devin Haney fought Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia missed weight, and he was popped for PEDs, and subsequently suspended for a year. And somehow Haney's come out looking like the bad guy. It's really weird. Devin Haney doesn't do himself any favours. I mean, there was people telling me, and I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know because I wasn't paying much attention to this game, that Devin Haney didn't want to be in the Undisputed game because he wasn't going to be on the cover. If that is true, mate. Listen, Devin Haney, I think he's a talented fighter, don't get me wrong, but no one knows who the hell he is. Like, he needs a Ryan Garcia dance partner to do numbers. That Prograis fight absolutely tanked on pay-per-view, and it wasn't even that entertaining. So Haney coming back, he needs the right dance partner, and if it's going to be Ryan Garcia again, it probably won't be at 140, it'll probably be at 147. Look, you could say whatever you want. The Haney fight got overturned, or the Garcia fight got overturned, so Haney's officially undefeated. Yeah, that's great. That's all well and good. But the damage of that fight is still there. You know, it'd be like, imagine, you know, like David Price, for argument's sake, when he fought Erkan Tepe. If you remember that fight, that was for a European title back in 2015. The Erkan Tepe, I don't know if he's still active, but Erkan Tepe, in that fight, he you would never have believed he was on PEDs. You'd never have believed it if you'd looked at him, because he didn't look in good shape at all, right? But he fought like someone who was on PEDs. And it wasn't just the fact that he got popped. Apparently his house in, I think it was in Germany, was like basically raided. He had that many PEDs. Like, apparently this guy was, you know, like roided up to the hilt. All right, and he knocked David Price out viciously, like absolute brutal knockout. Knocked him near out cold. Yeah, you can overturn that fight with no decision, but like at the end of the day, the guy was still knocked out cold, nearly. You know, he was absolutely battered for 2 rounds and viciously knocked out. Just because you overturn it, so I was like, oh, that's all right. You know, officially you haven't lost it. Yeah, the damage is still there. The damage is still there, though. It's not going to get, the body's not going to be like, oh, really? I'm repaired. It's not going to, it doesn't work like that. It'd be flipping great if it did, but it doesn't. So, yeah, with Haney, I don't know. Man, I don't know how he's going to be moving forward. I really don't. And I don't know, in terms of one rematch they're talking about, here could be another one. Frank Warren revealed on Box Nation, we're going to do 5 versus 5 in May. That's going to happen. And he's referring, of course, to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, another 5v5 people. Another 5v5. Has Eddie Hearn not suffered enough? What way would you do it this time? Because Eddie Hearn 5v5, I mean, does Frank Warren have any flyweights that he could stick in there with someone like, say, Gamal Yafai, or Galal Yafai? I don't know, because you don't want, you could, obviously you probably could do with the same guys again, not in terms of the same fighters, if you know what I mean, but you could have like maybe a Nick Ball defend this title this time against someone. Hamza Shiraz, if he wins his fight against Adames, and it's particularly easy, you could potentially have him versus, I don't know, Felix Cash. I know he's coming off a loss, but you know what I mean, like those kind of guys again. Ultimately, last time, on paper, I thought that it favoured Queensberry, but I wasn't, you know, I remember at the time saying I think the knockouts could be key. I was right, Queensberry won, but I didn't think they'd do a landslide whitewash 10-zip 5-0 in terms of fights. That surprised me. And if they did it again, you know, that Queensberry stable is very strong. Like, that Queensberry stable is very, very strong. And if you won the first round, surely you should have, at the very least, you should be able to dictate the weights a bit more. I know Turkey got to pick one, and Frank and Eddie got to pick one each. Maybe if you win and you're doing a rematch, you should let Frank have 3, Eddie have 1, and Turkey have 1. Is that fair? Or maybe not let Turkey have any and have a 3-2. I'm just thinking outside the box with that one. But look, I thought the concept went very well. I really liked the concept. I thought it was brilliant. You can't say that the fights weren't entertaining. I mean, we had a 6-fight card because obviously Bivol fought on the undercard. He fought that Malik something his name was, stopped them in 7 rounds actually. The only kind of gripe people really had about the card was the fact that, look, we've a 6-fight card, it's a brilliant card, but it was like way after 1am UK time when it actually finished. So it went on very long. I think a lot of people have worries about that potentially happening with the February 22nd show, because we've got a lot of big fights, a lot of competitive fights, a lot of long distance fights potentially on that. I think if the Fury-Usyk fight told us anything, they've managed the time a lot better. They had a little, I don't even think they had a little kind of music show, a very small one. There was none of that, Liam Gallagher performing 3 songs no one asked for, or some obscure rapper no one's ever heard of rapping, and God knows what I don't even want to know. I don't want to go there with some of them. But you know what I mean, the fans don't really care for all that. It might be nice if you're in the arena, but like, you just want, there's more people watching than that are there, and they just want to see a fight. So they managed the time a lot better with the Fury-Usyk, the rematch. Hopefully that's going to be the standard moving forward for these Riyadh shows, because we were doing that by 11 o'clock, a little after 11. It was great. I was thinking the worst would be going until near 1 in the morning again. Thank God it wasn't that. So I think moving forward with the shows, they've got a lot better in that regard. But going back to the 5v5, look, I thought it was a big success. I think that if you were going to have, say, Golden Boy, maybe Ben Shalom, Bob Arum potentially going to the zone in 2025, then there should be more, maybe, different concepts. 5v5, UK versus US. That might not go well for the UK. Normally don't fare too well against the US, but, there are obviously times where we have. Or maybe, no, actually, don't do Mexico versus UK. Let's not do that. Let's not do that one. But you know what I mean. Different kind of concepts. And I'd like that, I'd like to see the 5v5 utilise a prospect versus prospect. I did say that I would have liked to have seen Fisher versus Atama before. Not now. Hell no. That would be, I don't want to see a mismatch on those shows. But you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why we couldn't have, world level opponents, one at Matchroom, one at Queensberry fight, and then a Matchroom Queensberry prospect. Why not? I'd love to see that. So I think that the concept is very good. There can be a lot done with it. And yeah, listen, there's talk of a Riyadh show in March after the February show. There's a press conference coming up very soon, not this coming week, but very soon, for the Feb 22nd show. Wouldn't be surprised if we hear, and again, I don't have no inside knowledge on that, but wouldn't be surprised if we hear more shows announced after that. Obviously, Frank will be going to the zone in April, and as I said, he's not going to go to the zone without having, a big show lined up. Your first show on a new platform, you're going to pull out all the stops. And that's why with Turkey, he's been saying he's going to do Ring Magazine shows. Again, you got to look forward to that whenever he decides to do those Ring Magazine shows. He's not, well, Turkey shows in general are brilliant. I mean, they are. There's no ifs, but they're always brilliant. But I would imagine if he's going to open with a Ring Magazine show for the first show, he's going to want to do something special again. So there's so much good stuff. Honestly, I think there's so much good stuff in the pipeline for this coming year. And look at 5v5. If that's the first show he kicks off the Ring Magazine era with, we'll call it, well then, happy days, happy flipping days. Canelo Alvarez is considering several opponents for his next fight, one of which is William Skull, a fight that would give Canelo the chance to become undisputed again. Skull's team have been contracted, but he is not necessarily the front runner. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, because at the end of the day, he vacated that title, or he let the IBF strip him. Skull is now champion. I mean, he's got really nothing else. You see, the problem with Alvarez, well, he's not fighting Benavidez, although Benavidez is fighting Dave Morrell, which the PBC over the last few years haven't got much right, but they've got that one right. I think that's a cracking fight. So February is going to be an absolutely, that month is going to be on fire. February is just stacked. It's absolutely stacked. January's not doing too bad. We've obviously got Opetaia and Nieka. We've got Callum Simpson on Saturday night. Then we have Inoue, not next week, the following week. So we've got plenty. Diego Pacheco was back as well. So we've got plenty to look forward to over January. But February's just going to be absolutely lit. Yeah, look, I mean, what really else is there for Canelo? I know Turkey wants a Terence Crawford fight for Canelo. I know that's what Crawford wants. Turkey's mentioned Crawford has a few little niggles there, a few injuries, so they're kind of waiting to see. But look, let's not beat around the bush. We know that's really the only fight keeping Crawford in boxing. Crawford doesn't need to stick around, and I think if he does, especially at 154, he might get turned over by someone who you wouldn't necessarily expect. I mean, the size difference in that division is crazy in comparison to Crawford. But saying that, if he goes to 168 and fights Canelo, it's just going to be an even bigger size difference. Canelo's a unit at 168. He's comfy at that weight. So, look, William Skull, fine. I mean, I make Canelo firm favourite. Fine, undisputed again. By a bit like Fury, Usyk and Joshua. In spite of what Canelo may say, and he is younger than those guys, Canelo is 35 this year. He's not sticking around. Like, all right, let's say like after 2022, we could kind of say Canelo is slowing down a bit. After this year, he's going to be in his mid-30s. Well, he's already in his mid-30s. He is definitely going to be slowing down. We are not going to be seeing peak Canelo. That's not going to happen. So I would imagine Canelo is probably in the twilight of his career. He's looking at the likes of William Skull. He's probably looking seriously at the likes of Terence Crawford and thinking, yep, that's 2 fights. That's this year locked down. Happy days. Let's maybe do another year and call it a day. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens. Because Alvarez right now, like, there's no mention of a Bivol. I know Bivol is tied up with Beterbiev, but no mention of fights there. The guys who we were asking from the fight at 168, they're now up at 175. They've Benavidez, etc. So, and then the 168 division is just kind of stagnating. I mean, it's so bad you're going to have to bring guys up from 160. Like, you're talking about Eubank at one stage. You know, you fought Charlo, and, you know, that's kind of where we are with Alvarez. Unfortunately, because I do like Canelo Alvarez as a fighter. I think he's very entertaining. Ah, yes. Frank Warren. Let's be very careful. So, Frank Warren has now opened legal proceedings against Chris Eubank Jr. for defamation over the comments at the press conference last year. Yes. Now, Frank Warren. So, basically, I talked about this in a separate video, and as far as I was aware, now I know Frank Warren did basically say he'd be going down the legal road after the comments made by Chris Eubank Jr. And Chris Eubank Jr., he didn't just aim it at Warren, it was aimed at everyone. He had to go with the Sauerlands, he had to go with Eddie Hearn, he had to go with Frank Warren, he called them all scumbags. Frank Warren really, he bit at that press conference as well, said, why didn't you fight Hans Bashiras and this, that and the other, and then obviously said he would be doing what he does. Now, Turkey Al-Sheikh basically, as he often does, kind of smacked their heads together. It would appear at the time that he told them to basically kiss and make up, but they haven't. Apparently, Frank Warren filed that on December the 23rd, so just before Christmas. Nice Christmas present to Chris Eubank Jr. that, and 2 days after Fury lost to Usyk for a second time. So I'm not saying anything more, but yeah, let's watch the space with this one. As I said in the video, it seemed like Eubank Jr. might be worried about getting the Conor Benn fight, might be thinking about Erzurum's Lara. Least of his worries now. Frank Warren, the more formidable out of the three, to be honest with you, is Frank Warren. You just don't mess with Frank. Don't. Anthony Joshua has made it clear that his main aim for 2025 is to face Tyson Fury. So Anthony Joshua did say that. So Anthony Joshua basically said in an interview with a Nigerian TV or someone like that time is of the essence. He was meeting the president of Nigeria. He's over on the trip there. He basically acknowledged the fact that time is of the essence, and yeah, look, he's looking at that Tyson Fury fight. Now, Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury, like I said, you know, it's a fight that at one stage would have absolutely broke all sorts of records. Certainly in the UK, it would have, and worldwide, I think. I do think that. I think worldwide it would have broke all sorts of records. It would have done fantastic. Right now, it's got the kind of Amir Khan, Kell Brook feel to it, although not quite as bad as that. And saying that, Amir Khan and Kell Brook, they cleaned up in that fight. They really did. They did great numbers on pay-per-view and in the O2. I think it was in Manchester, wasn't it? But they did good numbers, and people were interested. But, you know, that certain spark had long gone. And I think it's the same with this one. Both guys be coming out the back of losses. Joshua's a bit more emphatic, a lot more emphatic than Fury's 2 losses to Usyk. And with that, I just think that it's a Fury win. I think that Joshua, at this point in his career, he's 35, 36. He's taken some beatings, in particular his last fight, and I just think that right now he's at the point of no return. That even if you were to rebuild him or attempt to rebuild him, like Eddie Hearn was maybe talking about doing, you got to be so careful who you even put him in there with, because he is going to, like, I thought Jermaine Franklin was a little bit of a, not a banana skin around it like that, but I didn't think he was the right guy to put him in there with for a comeback after the two Usyk defeats. Honestly, you wouldn't even put him in with Jermaine Franklin now after that. Tyson Fury, we don't know what Fury's going to do next, but I would be making Fury red hot favourite if they made that fight next. Red hot, firm favourite. I would go as far as saying I'd almost see it as a mismatch on paper at this point now. That's not to say it would have been a mismatch in their primes or a couple of years ago. It would have been very interesting. Really would have been a real good, entertaining fight. I might have favoured Fury slightly, but then I could see Josh was better on the inside, and would have been interesting. Now I'm like, now Fury wins that fight. Probably stops him. A lot of people are saying Moses Atelma beats Anthony Joshua now. I can see how he gives him trouble. That hand speed would cause AJ fits. AJ would be a bit standoffish because he's got that southpaw left with the big punch in the Telma, and his left hand is much quicker. I'm telling you now, his shots when he punches in combinations, his hand speed is every bit as quicker than Alexander Usyk, and harder too probably. So yeah, Joshua against a Telma, I mean, that's never going to happen, but I don't think it would go too well for Joshua at this point. Conor Benn has set his sights on the WBC world title. No socials. I'm locked in. WBC world champ in 2025. Fair enough. Good luck with that. Bob Arum is expecting Teofimo Lopez versus Subriel Matias to take place next, but is reluctant to put it on pay-per-view. Don't put it on pay-per-view, Bob Arum. Look, I love the fight. The fight is absolutely flipping it mega. It really is. Like Subriel Matias versus Teofimo Lopez, that would be all action. I think that probably Lopez would win. In fact, probably stop Subriel Matias. But Subriel Matias would be game. He'd be in it. He would be landing a lot on Teofimo Lopez, seeing how that pressure would go. I think Lopez will be all right with it, but I think that fight would be epic. But does it deserve to go on pay-per-view? No, definitely not. And that's why I worry, will we even get it? Because Teofimo Lopez, there's another one. He can be a bit of a diva when he wants to be, demanding this, demanding that. So let's wait and see how that goes. But if they could make that fight, I'd absolutely love it. Before we finish up, let's see what's on boxing scene. See, is there anything that we can talk about? Demetrius Andre, I think Terence Crawford can beat Canelo. Do you? I don't. What else do we have? Felix Sturm returns to the ring at 45. Well, it was 20 years ago that he fought Oscar De La Hoya, and he's still going. Interesting. I'm not gonna go in any further on that one. Anything else really there? Joshua, time is of the essence. Joshua Buatsi fighting Callum Smith for recognition of boxing world level. That's going to be an epic fight. That really will be an absolutely epic fight. It really will. Here's one. Vladimir Klitschko versus Tyson Fury 2, logically, if Anthony Joshua retires. Well, Anthony Joshua isn't going to retire. He's made that clear. I think he probably should, but he's made that clear. Why would that be logical to do Klitschko versus Fury 2 if Joshua retires? Joshua is 36 years old. Yes, he's been knocked out. Vladimir Klitschko will be he'll be 49 in March. He's not had a professional fight in 8 years? Like really, nearly 8 years thereabouts. Really, come on, man. No. Why? What's this? I get it. The comeback, they want Klitschko to do a comeback to make an attempt to try and break Foreman's record. I get that. And he'll break it by a couple of years. Foreman was nearly 46. Foreman was born in January. I can't remember the year, 1949, I think. So when he fought Michael Moore in November, he was nearly 46, but officially he was still 45, obviously, but he was nearly 46. He was closer to 46 than he was 45. Now, Foreman made an attempt 3 times to win a heavyweight title. First against Holyfield, lost that fight, took a bit of a beating in that fight, although he did give as good as he got at times. If you ever seen the fight, he did. Fought Tommy Morrison then, who was cagey as hell, defensively wary, because Morrison knew, all right, this guy punches like a mule and I don't have any whiskers to speak of. That was for a WBO title. And then he goes in with Michael Moore, and he was taking a beating in that fight too. Moore had no chin at heavyweight. No chin. He was dropped by Holyfield in the first fight. He was dropped 5 or 6 times. I think it was genuine. I think it was that many. I think it was more than 4 times. I think it was 5 or 6 times in the rematch. When he fought Holyfield, he was knocked out and around by... He did 2 knock him out and around. I know Michael Moore had no chin at heavyweight, so he wasn't one of the stronger champions. That's who Foreman beat. And Foreman, again, although he was out of the ring for a year when he fought Michael Moore, he'd still been active. Way more active than Klitschko. There's a big difference between being 45, being out of the ring for a year, and being 49, being out of the ring for, 8 years? Big difference. And that's 8 years. You'd have to get a ranking. It'd be criminal to just give Klitschko a world title shot. Just boom, there you go. It makes no sense for him to fight Tyson Fury other than, well, to make money. And probably people would still watch it. And if you're Tyson Fury, again, you'd be thinking, payday, big paycheck to fight a guy who I've already beaten a decade ago. And, a decade later, let's go again. He's nearly 50. Oh, you'd be laughing all the way to the bank. So, look, I like seeing people try and break these records, but I just think that someone like a George Foreman, he won his world title, as I said, in November 1994, and he made his comeback in was it 87 or 88? And he'd fought consistently up to that point. So again, it's not like, I think it was 87. So it's, again, but you get my point. Like, it's not. I think it was Steve. What was his name? Mike Tyson. He was a well-known journeyman. Mike Tyson, and everyone fought him. Something Zulu or something like that his name was. But anyway, that's miscellaneous. But he was fighting consistently. He was fighting bums, but he was fighting consistently. He fought Jerry Cooney in 1990. I think it was 1990, 1989, 1990. But you get what I mean. He was having kind of little step-ups and stuff like that. He was active. Can't just come back after 7-8 years and just be like, boom, ready to go, even if you get a weak champion, so that's the Klitschko situation there. That is review of the week there. First one of the year. Let's hope it was a good one. People, I hope you enjoyed this video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. I go back to London on Tuesday. Actually looking forward to getting back to London, getting back to my flat, getting back to kind of doing things over there. Big 2025 in place. I've already got a couple of events that I'll be attending in the next couple of weeks, so I'm really looking forward to that. So, and we're in a good place with that, actually. And I've had a couple of little things in the background going on, which I'm not going to talk about, but we're looking good for the year. We're looking good for the year. Good start to the year, anyway. So, long may it last. I hope you enjoyed the video. You'll get a break from this background for a couple of weeks, because when I'm back in London on Tuesday, I won't be home until February. So you'll get a break. You'll get a different setting. You'll get my lovely flat in Stratford for a couple of weeks. I hope you enjoy that. Is it a benefit or is it not? Some people strangely like it. I don't know why here. But yeah, look, that's miscellaneous stuff. I hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button, hit subscribe.